a beer yet?
And I was waiting to do it on the mic.
Well, we're recording, so...
Well, then I can do it right now. Why don't you do our intro first?
Let's start the show off with a gag.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, welcome
And we're
to...
back.
Yeah, welcome to Flying for Flavor, and we're making Cynthia drink beer again. Woohoo!
Yay me!
So we are one short today, but that's okay. We can drink Stacey's beer. She'll meet with us later.
Maybe I'll tell you in a minute whether I'm going to drink the beer.
And Cynthia's back from her little vacation in the sunny side.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very jealous. So we're going to pretend that she looks as white as she did before she
I
left.
kind of do, actually.
You do not look as, no, you do not. No, you do not.
Everyone
You
kept
got some-
saying,
you got a
wow,
glow, too.
you're pasty white. I'm like, I've been here a week.
Yeah.
No, you
Well,
got
no, but you got some
Little
color,
something,
which is
something.
good, which is awesome. And as I mentioned, we are drinking beer today. So it's actually kind of a weird thing. I want to say it's beer with a nod to the wine industry. So this is the Exchange Brewery's Flanders Red Ale. So the Exchange Brewery is a fairly new small craft brewery that located right on Queen Street in downtown Niagara-on-the-Lake that I happened to fall upon the last time I was there. And since then, if I'm not down there and Norm's not down there, we're kind of bringing home growlers just to try different ones that they're brewing on site. It's a beautiful brewery. I was just showing them photos. They did a great job. We actually walked in there once because it was raining and we thought it was a wine bar because it was that pretty.
It very much looks like a wine
Yeah. So it's very sleek and very pretty. And and this is where I got to sample some sours just because that's my new thing, sour beers. So this is actually one of their sours. So this red ale is actually aged in red wine barrels, which I thought is kind of a cool concept, right? And I think it won some silver medal at the 2017 Ontario Craft Brewers Awards.
Cool.
Don't quote me on that, but I did put the link on the show notes so that you can also order them in because you can actually order it online if you want to bring it
That's
home.
cool.
It is very cool. So I thought we could crack open a growler just to make it a little bit different. And since I'm heading to a pub after,
Yes.
might as well keep it going.
Step 2.
I know. Not a bad week so far. Let's go through some quick industry updates.
I like it.
She likes
She
it.
likes it.
George.
I won't promise I'll drink a whole
I
growler.
kind of find there's
It's-
a chocolatey finish to the end.
There is.
Slightly, yeah.
But you know what else? I'm also thinking with
creamy?
depending on what kind of barrel they used, you'll get a lot of these toasty vanilla oaky notes to it, and I think that roundness is kind of what it's the mouthfeel on it's really
It's got a
nice,
very
right?
nice finish to it, actually, yeah.
Because that's my big thing about beer is I don't like the finish of it. Whatever that, and we joked about whether I used to call it hoppy, but I think we determined it was
not
more
hoppy.
There is one thing that I could say. It's a very mild level of carbonation.
Yeah.
It's very, very mild.
Well, it is. It's funny because when I first opened it,
It's like a half flat, almost.
no, but I said when I first opened it, I can show you the picture. I posted a picture when I first poured my glass on Instagram, and there seemed to be a lot more. I think it's just by the
just
time I
giving us
open it,
flat
it's.
beer.
I see.
I'm not.
Okay.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Okay.
Bad hostess. Bad hostess.
No, that's actually, and interestingly enough, now I've got to go and order a bottle and have my husband try it because he hates wine. Anything with wine, he will sniff it out, even if I claim that it doesn't have wine in it. I know this doesn't have wine in it, but it'd be interesting to find something that's kind of informed by both sides of our palates that we both like.
Yeah, especially to go to a brewery like that where they would have a bunch of things on tap and plus other ones that you can sample. You can do full flights and they get you to try different ones. And I think those kind of events. It's too bad you didn't get to the microbrew festival too, because that would be
Really
another.
wanted to
Because
go.
that would be another one, an opportunity. Because I don't know if you saw the picture I posted. Again, it was another red one. It was another red sour. I think that was from Collective Arts.
Okay.
And I was really impressed with it. And of course, every female that walked by and saw the red liquid in my glass got super excited.
Thought it was
oh my
wine.
God, where'd you get that? Oh my God, where'd you get that? So I just kept sending them over there. And I think even Stacy messaged me or commented on it after because she went the next day and she said she agrees with me. It was quite the find. I had to do some research, you know. That was like day 2 or day 3 of drinking. I don't know how I function sometimes.
It's your job to function while you drink it.
Yeah, I know. My poor liver. Okay. Industry updates. Got a lot of things to share because I've just been a crazy person reading lately. So there was a gunman that was shot at a beach vendor from the water
Yes.
in Cancun, in the hotel zone. So a guy driving by like on a Sea-Doo was shooting at a beach vendor. Luckily,
the
Nobody.
heck?
Yeah, the beach vendor ran off. They couldn't find him. Police couldn't find him. They didn't know who made the shot, but they found 4 gun shells on the beach.
That's
Luckily, no
scary.
one was hurt. But they were commenting, "This isn't the first time this has happened."
I'm surprised it's the first time.
You know,
It is.
that
It's
weird?
not. No, I said it's not the first time.
I was going to say, I wouldn't think it would be the first time.
No, but if they said there was another case of somebody else was angry with somebody that was selling on the beach or whatever, and I don't know how they fix disputes there. But
You
jeez.
know, with everything happening in Mexico, I'm really deterred from going there. I mean, my parents were renting condos there for ages. The stories they have about the corruption, and like just and then there's that shooting in the hotel a couple of years ago. with the
There
Toronto
is, and I don't
couple.
want to. I mean, I also know a lot of people who go to Mexico quite a bit, and I do believe it depends on the areas that you're going to. Depends. I would never suggest wandering off on your own off the resort. I would say right now, like the hotel zone in Cancun is probably not the greatest place. Yes, the deals are really great there to go partying.
That's why the deals are so great. 'cause you
Yeah,
might get
so
shot
and
while you're
even
there.
like Playa del Carmen and some of those areas are getting to be not the greatest either. But when you start going down closer to Tulum and
Yes.
closer farther down the coast near the Mayan Riviera, those places are a little heavily guarded because they're higher end resorts. They still want tourism extremely important to Mexico, so they are going to make sure that people there are safe. But also the hotel chains themselves are going to spend more money on additional security measures on their higher end properties.
Yeah.
So do not cheap out when you go to Mexico, is what I'm saying. And if Stacy was here, she'd tell you the same thing, our travel agent girl. Second thing, which I thought was kind of cool, because we had a bad news thing, we'll go to a good news thing. So in Chicago, which I am desperate to go there this summer now.
I'm going in June.
Are you?
I am
Then
going
you
in
should
June.
check it out and you can send us,
Tell me
okay?
about it.
There
I'm
is
there
a
for
new.
weekend for a wedding though. So
Okay, that's fine. There is a new location of McDonald's. I know you're thinking, why would you send me to
Why would you
McDonald's?
send me to
Listen to this.
McDonald's,
It's a brand new concept because the new McDonald's head office is moving to a new building in Chicago.
Okay.
So that they are going to serve international foods. So their McDonald's items from all the different McDonald's around the world are all going to be under one roof.
That's cool.
That is
pretty
cool. So there's going to be things. There's going to be it's a 6,000 square foot restaurant that's going in this
Wow.
building. It's going to have a Latin American inspired dessert bar. There's going to be an Australian style McCafe. There's a rotating menu of global food and beverage items that are going to be happening. I think it just opened, this week. So they brought the Mighty Angus Burger. It's only Canadian. I didn't realize that. The Mighty Angus Burger, it's Canadian. They're going to bring the McSpicy chicken sandwich from Hong Kong. There is a cheese and bacon loaded fries from Australia. Only the Australians would do cheese and bacon loaded fries.
They didn't have that when I was there.
Oh, okay.
That
Well,
breaks my heart. But interestingly enough, bacon there tends to be more like a pea meal bacon than our strip bacon.
I don't care. It's ham. And then there's a whole list of them on the website. I'll put the link in the show notes. But then the other one I thought was really cool. So there's a McFlurry from Brazil called the Prestigio.
Ooh.
It is the vanilla soft serve with strawberry sauce and chocolate covered coconut bites.
Sure.
Yes,
Hello.
please.
Hello. Anyways, I'm very impressed with that whole concept of it because that's one of the things that I always think is cool. And then when I used to take Alex traveling with us when he was younger, of course, that kid can find a McDonald's. I mean, we were in Shanghai and the kid finds McDonald's. He used to sneak fries under the table wherever we were. But it's surprising how many, and he could always report, like, it's so cool. Like, this is what they call this here. And they have this that we don't. And surprisingly, especially in like larger cities like Madrid, Paris or something, some of the McDonald's locations are so high end, you wouldn't know they were a regular McDonald's.
No kidding.
They're just super classy and, mirror finishes on tabletops, like just gorgeous.
Because they're suiting the culture of the local
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, you bring back memories of when they introduced everything. I mean, everyone remembers when they did the pizza in the early 90s. But the next campaign after that was when they were doing the pastas. Do you remember that?
No.
No.
I love the pizza.
I remember the pizza. That was with the height
liked
of me
it.
working there. And
The problem was that it took too much time to make.
took too much time to actually the time to make wasn't horrible, but it took the attention away from the core products, I think was the challenge, because the pizza was good.
Pizza was good. It was almost
Yeah.
like a little mini Pizza Hut pizza.
Yeah.
Must have killed the drive-through.
Yeah, because I was always the one going in ordering
I don't know.
pizza and wings in the drive-through after the bar.
Let's put it this way, it was still faster than it is these days. Like if you go into a drive-through now at McDonald's, we just stopped. We just go in because
Yeah.
at least in our area, it is brutal. You're looking at a minimum 15-minute wait.
Oh, I don't usually go to McDonald's.
Whereas they were, I think it was 7 minutes for pizza. So that would be the big, they were used to getting their meals within 5 minutes then.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, people are like, well, they wait 15 minutes for
That's why they have two.
cheeseburger.
That's why I have two lanes, so it makes you feel like you're not waiting as long. Anyway, so when you're there, your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is to
find
go
this
to the
McDonald's.
McDonald's. It's in the West Loop neighborhood. I even have the address and stuff for you. So it's in a big. It's going to be in the McDonald's headquarters. I think it would be so cool if they have extended hours after the wedding. You tell everybody
Go to
to hop in
McDonald's.
a
That would be
limo
so
and
much
cabs
fun.
and
Hey,
show up at
guys,
McDonald's.
It's an Arabic wedding too, so we'll go get Arabic food at the McDonald's.
That's
We'll
amazing.
have a McFalafel.
How cool would that be though?
They
Anyways.
don't have. I don't think they'll have a McFalafel.
You don't.
They
Well,
should, though.
there's a whole list. If you go to the link on the show notes,
Really?
there's a whole list of all the I only gave you a few selections,
You
but
know, McDonald's in Israel is called McDavid's.
no. But that's what I'm saying. Like it's the whole concept of McDonald's all over the world. I think is fascinating.
It's a lot of fun.
And it's one of those things that there are still, as much as I never go to a restaurant that we have at home. That's just my rule.
Yeah, we're the same.
There's still a lot of people who are fussy eaters or whatever, and then they're nervous about trying something new and they first land someplace, so they gravitate to a franchise or a chain that they recognize.
I think I've said this in a previous show. When I lived in Australia and I got homesick, I would go to McDonald's and I would get a cheeseburger with no onions and a small fry because that was like what I've been eating since I was knee high to a grasshopper, right? So that was okay, I'm sick of all this foreign stuff and all these weird accents and whatever. I just want home. I'd go and by myself on the Wi-Fi and, take my phone or whatever with me and just go and have my cheeseburger and my fries. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm home for a few minutes. And it was air conditioned, which made it feel like home. But yeah, that was the thing. And they had McRib all the time. Like here we get it seasonally.
No, I mean, are you
sometimes.
kidding? It's an entire social media anniversary thing when the McRib
Yeah,
shows up.
whereas there I could get a McRib whenever I wanted. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, another reason to go to Australia.
Right there.
Right there. Okay, so we're going back to some sad news. So Sunwing is being investigated. So this was just on, I want to say it was just posted shortly before we started taping, and today's Thursday.
What?
That's how fast. So Sunwing is being investigated. It has to do with, they're mostly looking at travel between April 14th and 18th. So that's not you.
No, but it's my family.
Okay, so between 14th and 18th. So again, you can look at the link. I guess what's happening is there's been way too many complaints with luggage being lost, misdirected, up to a 6-hour wait in delays, cancellations that were no explanations. So there's Global News just did a whole, they just posted it, I guess. They just did a whole news piece on it and interviewed a few people or whatever. But there's a guy, so Sean O'Shea is the reporter for Global News, and he's got a Twitter handle. And he said if you follow him, you can tweet or message him and see the status of how things are going with this Sunwing thing. And and his Twitter handle is Consumer SOS. So CONSUMERSOS, and his name is Sean O'Shea.
Yeah, my whole family traveled Sunwing and they left on the 12th.
Did they have any delays?
Actually, it wasn't just us. It was my sister-in-law's family as well, too. So I'm going to check in with them.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So I'll put the link on the show notes so that you can pass along to people or whatever. But that's, so there's going to be some big investigation, and that's the Canadian Transportation Alliance.
And this is based on like luggage delays and canceled flights. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's a couple of different complaints or whatever. But sorry, I said Canadian. So CTA is Canadian Transportation Authority, I believe. So that's who's doing the investigation. So anyways, Sunwing's in trouble. So if you have Sunwing trips coming up, kind of keep an eye on what's going on too, in case there's any issues going forward. The other sad news is there was a CNN report in the last couple of days saying that wine prices are going up.
Yes, I saw that.
This would be one of those places where I'm going to interject with a little sound effect going, wah, wah. Okay, so I guess what's happening is because of all of the crazy ass weather that the whole entire earth has been experiencing over the last couple of years, wine production has consistently been going down since 2017. So because of weak harvests and everything else, demand is still up there, if not higher. Supply, of course, has gone down. So of course prices are going to go up. But they said the interesting part is that the first groups, the first wine buyers that are going to be most affected are the ones who are always buying the cheaper wines. Because the older wines are usually priced higher because they are not priced because of volume or lack of volume. They're always doing small productions. They were always had wine in small productions and have been storing them for long periods of time. sometimes depending on where they're from, sometimes they could be in barrels for 5 to 7 years prior to being bottled and then sold. So it's the cheaper ones that are produced on large scale volumes, grapes that are sold to another person. There's middlemen in between. So those lower end 1.5 liter bottles, wine in boxes, all that kind of, those are the ones that you're going to see a bit of an increase, I think, over the next year or so. But there was an entire CNN Money there's an article online and a video and all that kind of stuff. So I put the link on there too, for those of you who are panicked. But the interesting thing, they were comparing Italy, US, and another country for percentages of increases over the last year. Italy's has jumped up about 60%.
Wow.
And those are the cheaper Italian ones.
I made a crack when I read it going, well, it's a good thing I don't drink cheap wine.
There we go.
But I do have a few. I've got my favorites that are a little bit higher end and my favorites that are the more affordable everyday drinking.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. You don't always, and that's when they said cheaper wine, I'm thinking, what do you mean by cheaper? Is that like the $7 bottle cheaper? But it'll be interesting. So I'll kind of keep an eye on things. But once I like a wine, especially if you go to wineries directly, you're going to find that the wineries who are selling directly to consumers, they're going to have a lot of sales.
Yeah.
To counteract the fact that they have to increase their prices. So if you happen to see a lot of sales happening, that's what it is. Yay for sales. Okay. So then, oh yes, and not just regular cheap wine, but then don't forget of things like wine vinegars,
Yeah.
right? So anything that wine is in, including fortified wines like brandy or anything else that has a wine base, those will also go up as well. Wow. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Okay. So this
Guess
is
we're
over.
going to have to switch to beer. Easy. Let's not go crazy.
We were really kind of hoping to do this, of course, when Stacey, our travel agent, was here, so she can basically tell us if we are crying wolf or not, or if she likes our tips. But she did. She is going to send us if there's little things that she wants to add on. She will include them directly in the show notes, so you can get the professional opinion as opposed to us just crazy travelers who are just telling you our hotel horror stories. I don't want to do all horror stories. I don't want to focus only on the negative.
I don't tell mine.
You don't have to tell the bed bug story. I have never had bed, and honestly, I've never had bed bugs, and I think it's because, call me a snob or not, but especially when I'm traveling into a place I'm not used to, I do not stay in a hotel that has less than 4 stars.
Yeah.
And it is
I'm the
just
same
my
my
rule of
tip
thumb.
of the world.
That's here's our hotel tip. Okay, we can close the show now.
Yeah, done and done.
And it's not, and it's only because, and it's not because the one's less than or not. It usually has to do with, in my opinion, less than 4 stars. It just means they don't have either as much staff, as much service. Their staff to visitor ratio is probably a little bit lower. Like there's certain reasons that hotels are awarded extra stars than others are. So it's not necessarily that they're less clean or anything. But if they don't have the same number of maids and stuff, so, or as an example, they're racing through cleaning to try to keep up and stuff. And there's a long waits in between things, and they might be using cheaper cleaning products or whatever to keep prices down so that they can keep that price level. So there's all kinds of reasons, and we don't know for sure. And I'm sure Stacey's probably sitting listening to this, shaking her head, going, "Don't say that."
Well, it's funny because that was something that I mentioned when we were talking about this concept of this show, that my experience has been that even though star systems, you would think they're completely aligned, I didn't find them as aligned when I was traveling, specifically when I lived in Australia versus here. Here, like a 3-star is, you're thinking like our Comfort Inn, our Holiday Inn. You know, it's going to be clean. It's going to be
Bedspread.
like bedspread. But it's going to be like, sterile isn't the right word because you're never sterile, but like that kind of same kind of aesthetic everywhere. You know exactly what you're getting at a 3-star.
Beige.
You're not expecting super fancy, but you're going to have a clean bed that's going to be safe. And that, like for us, that's when we're traveling with our kids and doing dance competitions, we typically stay 3-star because it's just plain affordable. But you know what you're getting. We found when we traveled to Australia, 3-star was scary. You could get something like a Comfort Inn or whatever, but you could also get something that, I don't know about bed bugs, but I've had like stains on comforters. All I'll say is that I stuck my foot in a comforter and it was crunchy, and I just was done from there. That is legit what it is. I don't know what it was, but it was crunchy, and I pulled it off, and I insisted on a new one. And after that, not just after that, we had a few experiences that we were like 4-star max minimum worldwide. Just seems to be, at least we're guaranteed to get a Comfort Inn experience, even if it's not like fancy like we'd expect a 4-star to be.
Sounds safe.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. On that note, some tips. Depending on the hotel that you're on, if you can, see if they have a corner room. And only for the fact that sometimes there's just a little bit more square footage. Right? So you still may have a double room. So occasionally we'll do that. We, even if you're booking on one of those third-party sites, I don't have to list them all here. There's many of them. But a lot of times they are pre-selecting. As far as I know, I think it's Hotwire. If you book through Hotwire, you automatically get a double room, as in 2 beds.
Oh, interesting.
It's one of those things that doesn't always say that. There was somebody at a front desk at a hotel that told us that. Because we started noticing that every time we booked through Hotwire after a little while,
You had 2
it just seemed
beds.
to be, we kept getting 2 beds. And as much as you think, yay, we can
Which is
sleep on
great for your
separate-
marriage.
except for the fact that, no, all of a sudden one becomes the one you put
The garbage and
Yeah, just
everything.
your
Not the garbage, but
stuff
like
on
your,
your
it becomes like your
suitcase.
dresser.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just, which defeats
Yeah.
the purpose, right? So, and then if we want to get a room with a king size bed, all of a sudden we have to
Pay an upgrade
pay
or-
for an upgrade or something. So now I think there's quite a few of them, and the same thing with hotels.com. There's some hotels that will give you a choice of bed when you're booking right away.
Yeah.
But you can still get that same one if you ask for a corner room. Right. So I've done that a couple of times when we're traveling, especially bigger cities, especially if you're going to have some place that's got a view. Like if they give you, when you go to check in,
Better chance of a better view from
yeah, usually if there's a corner room, that's going to have 2 sets of windows, right? Which I think is kind of cool. If you check in later in the day, you have a better chance of an upgrade. That's just
interesting.
yeah, and it only has to do with it's hard for them to give you an upgrade when not all the rooms of people have checked in yet. Right, and I don't know the whole formula how it works, but they have so many that are pre-booked. They always have so many that are a cushion for screw ups. They got to have some money for upgrades and stuff. So by the time you get in there later in the day, they've pretty much allocated most of the rooms
How do you
for check-in.
secure that upgrade? That is fast. I've always heard about this upgrade thing, and we are
no.
that those travelers who are infamously checking in late. Because typically when we travel, it's for our kids and we're traveling after work and this kind of thing. And I've never, ever, ever experienced an upgrade.
Do you go to same chains quite a bit? Same hotels kind of bit?
Not as much, but
Do
I'm
you use
starting
their
to do it
points and
now.
loyalty systems?
Starting to do it now.
Okay,
I think that's more what it is.
That you'll notice it, and it's not because you're just part of the loyalty program. It's because I remember reading an article about this a while back. The hotel's keeping notes on you. So, especially if you have a membership number or something like that, it's nothing crazy. I mean, I'm sure if you get into a higher end situation,
I've got a
where
great
they'll
story
start,
about a higher end hotel in a minute.
right?
Yeah.
So as soon as you have, it's not that they're watching or anything else, but I'm always booking through a similar website
flags.
and a loyalty program thing all the time. So because I'm considered through that program now a gold member, because I have a higher grade through that, I think it even shows up on their end. And it's not that sometimes they'll automatically upgrade me. They'll just say they'll call it an upgrade, but it's just we have some newly renovated rooms. We've upgraded you to one of the newer rooms. Okay, may not be an actual upgrade, but we'll take it. And then sometimes if depending on we'll automatically ask when we go to check in. So what kind of room do we have? Because it shows that we're interested, right? So if it's that big, like what's the next level up? Right. And then then they'll take a look at it. And then depending on the price difference or whatever, and then who you are, if you're part of their loyalty program, they may or may not upgrade. It doesn't happen to us all the time.
No, it's just interesting because I've heard about it a lot. Now I've got a friend who travels exclusively with one particular hotel chain, and they experience it all the time. We are third-party bookers. That's where I've got my gold status is through there. And we find it definitely isn't as receptive, but I don't think we don't have a lot of we haven't entered like membership numbers for specific hotels. But the more we're doing this, the more we're traveling, the more I'm thinking, I should try to stick to one chain and start to build that in that regard.
We don't always, and I don't think we stick to the same hotels or hotel chains. I also think that just the more you're traveling,
That's true.
they automatically see that you travel quite a bit. Or if you've hit even if you're booking through a third party site, if you've hit a certain level, that just means that you do travel a lot. Right. So they may want to woo you, but the other thing is you got to ask.
You're absolutely right. I think that's what I'm gonna start asking about like that. Asking about what's our room like, or what is the
Just ask questions. So what kind of room do we have, and then what's the next level up, and we've got, hey, especially if you're going in competition and there's a family or whatever, do you have another room maybe that you can upgrade us for that's got a little bit more space, right? Hey, we got a whole family like joking around.
Yeah.
I've seen people like try to bark orders at people behind the
that's
front
never
desks.
gonna work.
No, that's where you
No.
get like the lower end room. But
Yeah.
I know.
I agree. And
Hi-
that's,
honey
quite
and vinegar.
frankly, I think you should if you're being nasty.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So the other thing that I've seen this online, and this is, I'm going to say no to this, but I've seen people saying that you should let them know if you're active on TripAdvisor or Yelp.
That's
no.
yucky.
I do hotel reviews on my website. I never tell anybody.
No.
I don't tell anybody. I don't even tag the hotels when I do. I don't post about the hotel after my stay.
Okay.
It's one of those things that I'll make my own notes and I put them directly on the website, but I don't tweet at the hotels and say, "Hey, here, click here. Here's my review of this place." I don't do it that way.
Okay.
Because I'm not doing it for me, and I'm not doing it for the hotel. I'm doing it for
your readers and
yeah,
listeners.
readers and travelers. So that's why. So I don't review on TripAdvisor, even though they email me every
time,
single time. And as much as it does help the hotels, I figure I'm also doing my part by telling people I'll recommend places if somebody's asking me.
Can we talk about TripAdvisor for a second?
Okay.
Just really briefly.
Uh-huh.
So the challenge behind TripAdvisor, and I think it's we've seen this, and I think in other places we've talked about Facebook reviews and these kinds of things, this kind of idea of a completely unmoderated, which is supposed to keep people more honest, concept, and yeah, maybe there's some of that for sure. I mean, definitely, but you've also got your armchair travelers where everyone has an opinion. Their perspective may not be the same as yours, and I think that when I'm looking at some place that's new or different or an area that I'm not familiar with, I think it's important to kind of give it a glance, but I also think it's important that that's not the only source of information that people are using when they're traveling.
Oh my God, if I only ever read the reviews on like
You'd never book
hotels.com or whatever,
Yeah.
exactly, I would be choosing all different places because there's always going to be a negative review someplace. And I laugh because and that's one of the reasons I don't do a star system on my reviews, because what I think is important for me is not exactly. I mean, I saw this lady do 2 paragraphs long venting about the fact there was no face cloths in her hotel room in the Dominican, and I almost wanted to reply to her saying they don't have face cloths in the Dominican.
That is so funny. I noticed it too right away. And I'm like, oh, well, I can wash my face with a hand towel. This is not the end of the world. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like they just want to complain, or well, this isn't. Oh, there was no Kleenex in there. Well, they don't really use Kleenex the same. Right, and paper is expensive in certain countries, and anyways, it's one of those things that people will just rant about something and give them a 2-star.
The artwork on the wall was so ugly I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how. I mean, I've
Yeah.
actually seen people like rant at staff at resorts about things like that, which I think are ridiculous. But yes, a lot of those types of review sites are either very, very good reviews or very, very bad. There's not a whole lot of in between, very fair things. And then you get the other ones which are 2 sentences long.
Yeah.
And then you get the other ones that are like a book.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to read. I just want to know, like, just the basics. Like, beach was good, food was good, or if you're at a hotel in a city someplace, it was right in downtown. I could walk everywhere I needed to go, or it was noisy outside. I just want to know the basics. I don't need to know what you had for breakfast. I don't need to know what the guy's name was that was working the front door that helped your bag. It was great to give him a shout out. It's not helping me decide if I'm going to book the hotel or not.
And if someone happens to have water stains on their glass in the bathroom, that's not a reason not to book a hotel.
No,
I mean, it's like
speaking
these
of, I was going to
weird
mention that
kind of
afterwards. I always
things.
rewash my glasses.
It's like these are not the things, like you're making or breaking a business again in this stage, right? And you're impacting someone's income. And I think it's like, the joke is don't ever do your primary research on, or your quoted research on Wikipedia. It becomes, it's a source. It gives you some as kind of other sources to look at. And I feel like places, and I'm picking on TripAdvisor, but review sites, whether it's hotels.com, on Expedia, TripAdvisor, whatever, that you have to take that with that kind of thought, that it's someone else's opinion and they may not have the same opinion as you. This is where your travel agent comes in and is really important.
Yes, so travel agents are good for that. And then also if there's a search function where you have a lot of filter options of what amenities are included and that kind of thing, like use those features in there, which will help narrow it down, right? Whether if you need to park a car at a hotel in another country, for example, make sure you choose that I want hotels that have parking.
Yeah.
Or, right? You just got to be able to go there, and it's got to have Wi-Fi. Well, then check that box and make sure you're not going
Yeah.
through all of them. So the information's there. You just have to learn what to take what you need and leave the
Yeah.
rest, right? Exactly. And then the only other last little thing, which is interesting, because people always forget about it. If there's a hotel in a business area meaning a downtown of a city, they're going to be cheaper on weekends and more expensive during the week. If you're going into tourist areas or close to like shopping centers where there's a lot of like amusement parks and that kind of thing, those are going to be more expensive on weekends because that's when everybody goes, and it'll be cheaper during the week. So same thing when it comes to resorts and stuff like that too. But always just keep that in mind when you're booking it, depending, like if you're going midweek to a big city someplace, you staying in the middle of the week, if you are right downtown in the business area, it's going to be more expensive. So kind of just flex where you need to go. And I think other little things, booking a new hotel, if there's new hotels that just got listed, or a new location, sometimes they're offering introductory rates. And then also there's a lot of websites out there that offer you hotel and flights to book at the same time. You might be saving money by doing that as well if you have to fly there. But take some time to shop around, because it's surprising, even though I book a lot, I book my own hotels. It's surprising how many times even Norma kind of scolded me like, well, did you check this site and you check this site? And yes, I've checked all of them. And it's surprising until you start checking them all, you'll consistently find that one or more way is better. And sometimes it may hotel rooms may not be available on a third party site, but if you go directly to the hotel's website and or through a travel agent, you may get a hotel room there after all, even though they said there was not available. So it's kind of like behind the scene things.
Well, and I think too, the hotels are heavily marketing that you're always going to get the cheapest price on the hotel's website, assuming that they probably are paying the third-party operators a commission to sell their rooms, and that's something that we've certainly tested ourselves when we're shopping hotels. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it
Correct.
isn't.
It's
So
always
again,
hit and
it's
miss for
always
me
that
too.
buyer beware thing. That's why I said we use an app pretty heavily, because it's one of those, you rent 10 rooms, you get a free night or whatever. So that's our quickest, easiest way to save, because we don't do a lot of travel. But we always, especially because we do dance travel and we're staying for a week at a time and whatever else, we're checking both. And 50% of the time is cheaper on that hotel site, and 50% of the time is cheaper on that app. So it's really, again, like you say, checking all the sites and being buyer beware almost.
Deke? You don't want to tell your story? Is it really gross? Is it going to make us go, ew?
It can't be grosser than mine.
No, I don't even know if I want to get into the details. But yes, I contracted the bed bugs, the bites.
Oh.
I woke up in the morning, they were welts the size of toonies down my nose. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
That's awful.
And they did nothing about it. And it was through a third party. It was Hotels.com. And they gave me a $50 discount towards my next time.
Well, because that's
Because Hotels.com
Which
can't.
never happened.
No,
doesn't have
that's
any
the whole
control over
thing.
that,
Is that
right?
That's right. I mean, the fact that Hotels.com was nice enough to do it, the hotel you stayed at, it's
have.
their responsibility.
Yeah, and who assumed there was no responsibility taken.
That's not right.
It was a very bad experience.
I'm going to guess that if Stacy was here, she would tell you that you need to go directly to the head office of that hotel's chain.
Yeah.
Go to the owner. The person at the front desk doesn't have the authority necessarily to do that, depending on there's a manager on site or whatever. And I've tried emailing hotels directly because I left something behind or whatever. And it's basically once you walked out that
It's
door.
gone. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they don't care. If you can email them 10 times, it won't matter.
It just
I've even called and they're like, nope, it's not there. And I'm like, I left your hotel an hour ago.
Yes.
It's in a corner. I can tell you exactly what corner
Yep,
it is.
I've
It was
tried
like
that
a charger for my laptop. I'm like, it was in your lobby. I unplugged one of your lamps. I guarantee you haven't noticed yet because it's not dark yet. I'm like, if you just walk over there, it's like $100 charger. I'll pay the $25 for you to courier to me because it's cheaper. They put the phone down, came back 5 minutes later. It's not there. And I'm like, baloney. But you're right. It's like once you're out, you're out. Don't leave anything behind. Check all your drawers, check everything, unplug, recheck, make checklists if you have
Yes,
to.
double check.
Yeah.
So a couple of the other little tips. I think I have a tips. Oh, maybe I'll put that in the show notes too. I have just my favorite travel tips. So a couple of cool things. So one of the things I mentioned earlier, I kind of snuck it in between our conversation, but it was that I watched a horrific show about cleanliness and things.
Yes.
So remote controls are the dirtiest things in any
Yes.
hotel room. First of all, I'm not a big TV watcher when I'm away, except for putting CNN on or something like that, because I'm a nerd. But there's an app on your phone now, especially if you have an iPhone, that can actually, there's apps that a lot of these TVs will operate. You can use your own phone.
Oh, that's
So certain hotels,
interesting.
so there's certain hotels now that have this, that you can use your own cell phone to operate your smartphone, to operate the remote, which is better. Otherwise, you have to start bringing disinfecting wipes and blah, blah, blah.
I was gonna say, I think I know I used to it when my kids were younger. I don't do it anymore because now I'm like, take the germs. But when they're older and stronger and all
Yeah.
that. But when my kids were younger, for sure, I always traveled with disinfecting wipes and I wiped everything. I mean, I think as you get a little more lax as your kids get older, but for sure, if that's a concern, we don't even touch our remotes. Actually, to be honest, we never turn our TVs on when we travel. But if it's a concern, bring the wipes and don't be afraid to do your due diligence because you're up. And phones are the same
Yep.
kind of thing.
If there are mugs and glassware in the room. So a lot of times that's why I'm noticing they're putting the paper cups for coffee now for a lot of times. But I actually will take them in and wash them, like wash and dry them with either shampoo or the soap or whatever,
done that.
and reuse them because we wash our own stuff at home.
It takes
And
us 2 seconds to wash our own
It
glasses.
takes 2
while we're there.
seconds, and that's to be safe because most of the time I've seen them like as they're wiping the countertop on some of these shows, they were showing that they just use the same rag and they're kind of wiping whatever.
seen the
I
same
know.
thing.
Bleh, exactly.
Actually wondered that when we were in Punta Cana, and I won't be too public, it's probably you'll see on Facebook where I stayed. But our glassware was always clean when we came back, but those girls did not have glassware on their carts.
Correct.
So I'm just hoping that they washed it in the sink with soap.
I still don't. We either do that, or a lot of times when we're traveling to those resorts, we will go to the bar, order a glass of wine or whatever else, and ask them if we can take it back to our room, and then that's the glass that we use for.
right.
Yeah.
Clever.
Yeah. Oh, we've got all kinds of workarounds. And the last one I thought was really cool. So there was a video. So there's a link in the show notes, and it's called "How to Make Your Hotel Room Healthier."
Oh, interesting.
So there's all kinds of really cool tips on there. But while I was scrolling through and reading the article, there was this video that came on the center of it, and it says, "Do you ever wonder what happens to your half-used hotel soap after you leave?" So I'm thinking it's going to be that same video, like same kind of video of the horror story, what they do with it after. But very cool. There's an entire company called it's actually a charitable organization called Clean the World. So they actually the hotel pays for this company to come and pick them all up. So I guess they so much per bar. I think it's like 50 cents each per bar the hotel pays. And basically it's donated. They pay money to ship it to this company, and this company melts them all down, and they use those soap to send to third world countries,
That's
used for
cool.
laundering, so it doesn't go to waste. So anyways, there's a little bit of information about that company, which I thought was very cool, because I was perfectly ready to watch some horror thing, but just to see that how it's actually recycled.
That would be enough actually for me to try a hotel chain based on that.
Yeah. So anyways, it's really cool. So that little video is in the center of that "How to Make Your Room Healthier." That's linked in the show notes.
Did
which
they
I thought was
take the Harry soap too?
Okay. Okay, do you have to finish with that? We were doing so well. I was trying to finish the show. And
You can
something
totally cut
paused
that
and-
out.
Got it
Yeah.
in last minute.
Okay, that's disgusting. That's funny
It's
though.
tangible.
My guess is that it would be filtered out in the.
Oh my gosh.
soap
Okay.
making.
Oh my God. It went sideways so fast. Okay. Anyways, for those of you who are not
love
familiar
you,
with
Dee.
how to find the show notes, if you're listening to this on a smartphone device, within the notes of the podcast episode, you'll see a hyperlink that'll actually take you directly to the show notes, and then it'll have all those videos and other links for you to read. Or if you are near a desktop that you can't necessarily this, or you're on another app or not on a smartphone, you can always go directly to stephaniepichet.ca/flavor37. We are at 37.
Can I just say that it
Yes.
was Deke who made the rude comment this time instead of Cynthia? This is really important for our listeners to hear because it's always me.
It's usually
Good job, my friend. I'm rubbing off.
by Christmas we are going to be permanently in E
More
rating.
than enough to go around.
Next week, the funny thing is, so I didn't post the schedule. You'll probably, by the time you're listening to this on Saturday, we will have the schedule up for maybe May and June. We're hoping to
so.
have that tackled. We're meeting actually after this show taping today, just so we can kind of organize the schedule for the next month or two, so we can squeeze in what we can. However, next week we didn't really have a topic ready. Or I thought we did and we didn't. I forget why there wasn't anything there. But by coincidence, on next Thursday, I'm doing a private class or tasting for some of my regular class attendees. And so I'm offering them to do, it's a preview of my trip to northern Spain. I'm going in June. So there's going to be tapas and pinchos, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between the two. And then I'm doing wines from each of the wine regions up there. Because if you're not sure what tapas and pinchos are, these are small little bites. They're mostly pinchos up in the northern part because it's kind of an honor system. So all of the little tapas are basically put out in platters along the bar, and you basically help yourself,
For free, yeah.
and you keep. No, it's not free. No, it's not. See, that's a don't. See, you're gonna have to wait till next week to find out. Because there's toothpicks or little skewers in each of them. It is not just to keep them hold together. It is up to you to keep them on your plate, because they'll have side plates like a buffet. And that's how you pay, is that you bring your plate up and you have so many sticks, and then you're paying based on how many pieces they charge you based on how many sticks.
I see.
It's not very expensive, but the same thing, like if there was a mussel shell or an oyster shell, same thing, you keep the shells on the plate. So when you bring your plate in after you finished eating, they count to see the remnants on your plate, and that's how they charge
So
you.
if you want to save money, just eat the sticks.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's a good practice, but
Extra fiber.
extra fiber. But anyways, I'm going to so we're going to have I want to have set up a whole buffet of all different, some of the more popular ones that are there, ones that are easy to do at home. So we'll have like lots of photos. Maybe I'll do a couple little video clips here and there. But essentially, I'm just going to hit record, and we're going to tape the whole show just as is, and I'll edit some stuff out.
I think my son would mind if like we skipped his first performance at his dance competition. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll miss him. It's his duet. It's fine.
He doesn't need to be there. But yeah, so there's so anyways, that'll be a show. So it's kind of just giving you a preview of what the eating and drinking is like in northern Spain. So I thought that'd be a fun way to kind of kick off spring. Is basically, well, who am I kidding? Has nothing to do with spring.
No, it's just Spain.
I wanted to go through and do some of the recipes anyways, and some of the people who come to my wine classes, that's what they were interested in.
That's cool.
So I thought I'd combine everything on one shot. So we will see you next week. Grab yourself a bottle of Spanish wine if you're going to listen at all. And in the meantime, make sure to subscribe and rate us on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, and Spotify. And of course, you can always find us on flyingforflavor.ca. We have a built-in player, so there's no excuse. Until next week. Oh, beer.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cynthia's actually finishing a beer.
Ching,
Yay.
ching, ching, ching.
Okay,
Cheers.
bye.
Well done.